In the vast tapestry of human consciousness, we are taught to categorize our faculties into neat, opposing binaries: heart versus mind, feeling versus thinking, softness versus strength. We are led to believe that to be empathetic is to be vulnerable, open, and tender, a receptacle for the world's sorrows. Conversely, to be analytical and detached is to be cold, impervious, and logical. But what if the most potent and formidable form of human understanding exists not in choosing a side, but in the masterful synthesis of both? This is not merely a theoretical personality type. It is an advanced operational mode of the human psyche. The individual who can feel the subtlest tremors of human emotion while simultaneously applying the dispassionate, crystalline logic of a strategist does not possess a simple personality quirk. They wield an evolutionary weapon. This is a domain of the Sigma Empath, a psychological archetype that transcends conventional understanding, merging profound depth of feeling with the unshakable clarity of a Sigma's detached intellect. The result is not an angelic being of pure compassion, but something far more complex and potent. A psychological sniper whose perception is calm, unreadable, and terrifyingly accurate. 1. The Jungian crucible, the forging of a living paradox. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung proposed that the path to true wholeness, a process he termed individuation, lies in the conscious integration of opposites within the psyche. He believed that we all possess a shadow, a repository of the traits, impulses, and capacities we deny or repress to conform to societal or personal ideals. True psychological power, according to Jung, does not come from suppressing the shadow, but from acknowledging, confronting, and ultimately integrating it with the conscious self. The Sigma Empath is the living, breathing embodiment of this Jungian principle. They are a walking paradox, a unified field of seeming contradictions. Their empathy is not the effusive, overflowing river that characterizes a more common or beta empath. That form of empathy, while genuine, can be overwhelming and lead to emotional burnout, codependency, and a loss of self. Instead, the Sigma Empath's compassion springs from a deep, almost scholarly understanding of the human condition. They have studied the topography of the soul, its peaks of joy, its valleys of despair, and its hidden crevices of fear and desire. They don't just feel what you feel, they comprehend the intricate architecture of why you feel it. They see the historical precedents in your personal narrative, the triggers born of past wounds, and the subconscious scripts that dictate your emotional responses. This intellectual grasp of emotion grants them a supernatural calm in the face of chaos. While others are swept away by the riptide of collective anxiety or individual drama, the Sigma Empath stands as an unmovable pillar, not from a lack of feeling, but from a profound understanding of the current's origin and direction. 2. The ethereal presence, moving as an emotional ghost. The presence of a Sigma Empath in a social environment is a study in subtlety and paradox. They can be physically present in a conversation, offering the appropriate nods, smiles, and verbal cues, yet a part of their consciousness remains elsewhere, operating on a different frequency. This is not the detachment of boredom or social anxiety. It is a quiet, humming calculation of a sophisticated processing unit. They are perpetually reading the room, not for its explicit content, but for its implicit emotional data. They function as a living, breathing radar dish, continuously scanning for the emotional frequencies that most people emit unconsciously. Every interaction is a rich source of data. The slight hesitation before a laugh, the micro-expression of contempt that flashes across a face and is gone in an instant, the subtle shift in posture that betrays discomfort, the specific choice of a word that reveals an unspoken agenda. All of this is meticulously observed and cataloged in the vast mental archive of the Sigma Empath. Later, in solitude, they will replay these moments like a forensic analyst reviewing security footage. The purpose is not to judge or to gossip, but to understand the underlying patterns, the hidden dynamics, the true narrative beneath the social performance. 3. The anatomist of effect, decoding emotion, not absorbing it. For the common empath, the experience of another's emotion is often direct and immersive. They feel the sadness, the anger, the joy as if it were their own, a sympathetic resonance that can be both a gift and a curse. The Sigma Empath operates on a fundamentally different principle. They do not drown in the emotional current of others. They don laboratory coats and dissect them. When confronted with a person's emotional display, the Sigma empath does not instinctively merge with it. Instead, they assume the role of the psychological anatomist, mentally unfolding the complex layers of causation and context that lie beneath the surface feeling. Their objective is not to feel what you feel, but to understand why you feel it. This is empathy stripped of all sentimentality and reconstructed with surgical, almost clinical precision. They treat emotions as a cryptographer would treat a complex cipher, as a system of encrypted data, waiting to be decrypted. They are searching for structure, pattern, repetition, and underlying motive. They observe the tonal shifts in a voice that contradict the words being spoken. They note the inconsistencies between a person's proclaimed values and their emotional reactions. They register the subtle changes in energy as someone discusses different topics, piecing together a psychological puzzle that reveals the hidden contours of the individual's inner world. 4. The strategic application of insight, weaponizing understanding. In the hands of the Sigma empath, deep understanding is not a soft, sentimental resource used solely for comfort and connection. It is a sharp, deliberate, and often disarmingly accurate instrument. Their comprehension of human emotion extends beyond mere identification. It encompasses a functional knowledge of how those emotions operate, what triggers them, and what consequences they produce. They can trace a feeling of resentment back to its source, a decades-old betrayal, a pattern of neglect, with the same deductive certainty a detective uses to trace a weapon back to its owner. When a Sigma empath understands someone, it is not merely for the purpose of fostering intimacy. It is for achieving clarity, maintaining control over their own emotional space, and, when necessary, enacting protection. This is the aspect of their nature that many find unnerving. Their empathy possesses a dual capacity. It can heal, but it can also reveal, and revelation can be a profoundly uncomfortable experience. Most people utilize empathy as a soothing balm, a way to reassure another that they are not alone in their suffering. The Sigma empath uses empathy as a high-beam flashlight, illuminating the dark corners of a person's psyche that they themselves may be avoiding. They possess an innate ability to sense when a person's kindness is a strategic maneuver, when a display of confidence is a fragile performance masking deep insecurity, or when an apology is merely a tactical setup for future manipulation. Once this perception is locked in, the Sigma empath is presented with a menu of options unavailable to most. They can consciously choose their response. Do they soothe the individual, gently expose a hidden dynamic, or simply continue to observe and gather data? Their profound insight grants them agency. They are not slaves to reactive impulses. They are masters of intentional response. 5. The unflinching mirror, exposing truth rather than administering healing. The Sigma empath does not typically enter people's lives with the conscious mission of a healer or an emotional nurse. They are not there to patch up superficial wounds or offer platitudes that merely soothe without resolving. Their role is far more profound and, for many, far more disquieting. They function as psychological mirrors. Their very presence, their grounded and authentic energy, has a peculiar effect of pulling people's buried truths to the surface, regardless of whether the individual is ready to confront them or not. When a Sigma empath forms a connection with someone, a subtle and involuntary process of unmasking begins. The social personas, the defensive pretenses, the carefully maintained illusions start to slip and crumble without any direct effort or accusation from the empath. Suddenly, the emotions and memories that have been diligently buried, guilt, shame, resentment, core fears, begin to bubble into consciousness. This does not occur because the Sigma empath is demanding confession. It happens because their energy, their unwavering alignment with truth, refuses to resonate with falsehood. They cannot or will not participate in the collective illusion. They do not follow the conventional script of offering comfort before confrontation. Their primary offering is clarity. And clarity, as many spiritual and psychological traditions attest, often produces a burning sensation before it initiates any genuine healing. This is the primary reason Sigma empaths are so frequently mislabeled as cold, harsh, or uncaring. The recipient of their reflective presence often mistakes the discomfort of being seen for cruelty. But the Sigma empath operates on the foundational knowledge that authentic, Lasting healing can never be built upon a foundation of soothing lies or avoided truths. It can only arise from a place of brutal, unvarnished honesty. 6. The subtextual listener, hearing the unspoken agenda. A Sigma empath engages in conversation on a level that transcends the mere exchange of words. They are not truly listening to what you say. They are listening to what your energy betrays. In their perception, every spoken sentence is a carrier wave, and they have trained themselves to detect the static of true intention that lies beneath it. When an individual speaks, the Sigma empath is simultaneously running a sophisticated scan on a multitude of channels. Tonal quality, pacing, rhythmic hesitation, and that most elusive of data points, the invisible vibrational signature that reveals underlying motive. This is not a paranormal ability. It is a form of perception that has been honed to a razor's edge through practiced detachment. While others are easily distracted by a charming delivery, a charismatic persona, or the intellectual content of words, the Sigma empath is quietly tuning their receiver to the frequency of the speaker's hidden agenda. They can sense when an act of kindness is transactional, designed for personal gain. They can detect when a piece of advice is subtly laced with desire for control. They can feel when an apology carries an invisible hook, a subtle implication of future obligation. This capacity exists because Sigma empaths do not process conversations through a purely emotional filter. They process them logically, but they use emotional content as their primary data set. Their cool, detached perception functions with the reliability of a polygraph test. They are not overwhelmed or swayed by the content of the message. They are perpetually decoding the emotional signature embedded within it. This is what makes them so profoundly unsettling to those who rely on manipulation and subtext. Their intuition is not a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is a surgical instrument. 7. The scholar shadows, understanding darkness without succumbing to it. A defining and rare attribute of the Sigma empath is their ability to venture into the darkest aspects of human psychology, manipulation, deceit, narcissism, even cruelty, and emerge psychologically unscathed. They do not shy away from the study of darkness out of fear or a sense of moral superiority. Instead, they approach it with the same dispassionate curiosity a virologist studies a dangerous pathogen, not because they admire the virus, but because they know that you cannot develop immunity or cure if you refuse to understand the mechanism of the disease. They treat malevolence and manipulation as systems, complex but decipherable networks of cause and effect, trigger and response. Where the average person might respond with judgment, outrage, or flight, the Sigma empath observes with an unsettling calmness, mapping the patterns of control, the leverage points of fear, and the strategies of psychological domination as a chess master would study an opponent's opening moves. They possess a remarkable immunity to what could be termed emotional contamination. They do not internalize the darkness they study. They can read extensively about psychological abuse, engage with master manipulator, or witness acts of profound cruelty without their core empathy or their sense of self becoming corrupted. This is a critical differentiator between them and the more naive or untrained empath. The naive empath, operating with open boundaries, absorbs the negative emotions and toxic energy they encounter like a sponge, often leading to burnout, cynicism, and a loss of faith in humanity. The Sigma empath, in contrast, has learned to stand in the heart of the emotional storm while remaining dry. They understand that true compassion does not require blindness, and that clear-eyed awareness does not inevitably lead to corruption. 8. The fortress of the heart, compassion with boundaries sharper than steel. The compassion of a Sigma empath is not an open-door policy or an infinite well of unconditional sympathy. It is more akin to a guarded, sovereign realm with strictly enforced entry protocols and a sophisticated border control system. They have learned, often through painful experiences of being drained and exploited, that not every individual who seeks their empathy genuinely desires healing. Some are unconsciously or consciously searching for an emotional host, a person whose energy they can feed upon to sustain their own dysfunctional patterns. Therefore, the Sigma empath does not rush impulsively to rescue every person in distress. They pause, they assess, and they make a conscious determination. Will offering their empathy in this situation genuinely nurture growth and self-reliance, or will it merely enable self-destruction and foster dependency? This is the point at which their compassion transforms into something that can appear lethal to those seeking easy comfort. It is no longer blind and automatic. It is measured, discerning, and strategic. They possess the strength to watch someone spiral into a self-created crisis and still choose to remain silent, not out of indifference, but from a place of profound wisdom. They understand that pain, while unpleasant, is often a necessary and potent teacher, and that prematurely interrupting the lesson can stunt the individual's psychological and emotional development. They consciously refuse to offer their precious energy to individuals who use their suffering as a form of performance art or as a tool to manipulate others. Instead, they reserve their deep empathy for those who demonstrate a genuine willingness to alchemize their pain into transformation and growth. To an observer who has not developed this discernment, this behavior can appear cold, even cruel. In reality, it represents the highest form of mastery, empathy filtered through disciplined boundaries. Sigma empaths see the compulsive need to save others for what it often is, a disguise for control, an ego trip, a way to feel needed, powerful, or virtuous. 9. The unshakable anchor, unnerving calm in the face of manipulation. When the average person finds themselves targeted by a narcissist, a gaslighter, or any form of emotional manipulator, the typical dynamic is one of reactive entanglement. The manipulator baits, the target reacts, defending, explaining, justifying, and trying to prove their worth or sanity. This reactive energy is the very food the manipulator craves. The Sigma empath, understanding this dynamic on an instinctual level, refuses to play the game. Their response, or more accurately, their non-reactive response, is what makes them so unnerving to these psychological predators. Their calmness is a void, a denial of the emotional control the manipulator seeks to exert. When the provocation begins, be a condescending tone, a twisted narrative, a subtle guilt trip, or a blatant lie, the Sigma empath's stillness can feel almost supernatural. There is no flinching, no arguing, no visible reaction of anger or hurt. This is psychological judo at its most advanced, using the opponent's energy, their need for reaction, against them by offering nothing but serene composure. The manipulator, accustomed to predictable drama of reaction, finds their entire script falling apart. Their tactics are designed to trigger an emotional response, and they are met with a profound and impenetrable silence. This calm is not a passive state of submission. It is an active and potent strategy. A Sigma empath can sense emotional bait from the very first sentence. They recognize how narcissists test and probe for weaknesses through small, incremental provocations. While others react impulsively, the Sigma empath simply withdraws into a state of deep observation. Their mind becomes quiet, their facial expression neutral, their physiological state steady. The manipulator, deprived of the emotional engagement they require, often becomes anxious, frustrated, and may escalate their behavior, further revealing their true nature in the process. 10. The reflective surface, projecting the shadow back to its owner. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is central to understanding the profound and often unsettling impact a Sigma empath has on others. The shadow represents the totality of the unconscious psyche, the repressed weaknesses, desires, fears, and impulses that the conscious ego cannot accept as part of itself. Most people spend a significant portion of their lives running from the shadow, masking it with personas, and projecting it onto others. When they encounter a Sigma empath, this strategy of avoidance becomes untenable. A peculiar, almost magnetic dynamic occurs. The Sigma empath's energy, by virtue of its deep self-awareness and integration, naturally acts as a catalyst, pulling the hidden shadow material of others to the surface. They do not do this intentionally or maliciously. It is a spontaneous effect, like in law of emotional gravity. Because Sigma empaths are so grounded in their own truth and have made peace with their own darkness, they involuntarily become mirrors for those around them. Their calm authenticity, their refusal to participate in social games, and their perceptive depth create an environment where masks feel unnecessary and ultimately unsustainable. The moment an individual interacts with Sigma empath, their own pretense begins to subtly unravel. The aspects of themselves they worked so hard to keep hidden, feelings of jealousy, pride, deep-seated guilt, or shame, suddenly feel visible. Even if not a single word about them is spoken, this triggers one of two powerful reactions. Some individuals feel profoundly seen, understood, and liberated in the presence of Sigma empath, as if a great weight of pretense has been lifted. Others, however, feel threatened, exposed, and almost violated, because being truly seen for who you are is a terrifying experience when your entire identity is constructed upon hiding your shadow. 11. The art of sovereign connection. Empathizing without attachment. Perhaps the most advanced skill in the Sigma empath's arsenal is their ability to engage in deep, meaningful empathy without forming the sticky, enmeshed attachments that characterize so many human relationships. This is their ultimate strength, the capacity to understand another's emotional world with profound depth and accuracy, while simultaneously maintaining their own sovereign emotional center. They can listen to a person's tale of pain, grasp every nuanced layer of the fear, guilt, and unspoken hurt, and yet remain internally grounded and clear. Their form of empathy is not about merging identities or taking on another's emotional burden as their own. It is about perceiving the other's reality with precision and clarity. They operate on the core understanding that to truly see another person or to be of any genuine assistance, one must maintain a position outside the chaotic storm of their emotions, not become a participant within it. Most people conflate empathy with emotional absorption, a process of taking on the feelings of another until those feelings become indistinguishable from one's own. The Sigma empath knows that this form of empathy, while often praised as sensitive, is ultimately self-destructive. It clouds judgment, fosters codependent relationships, and transforms compassion into a form of emotional debt that burdens both parties. Instead, they practice what can be termed clean empathy. They connect, they comprehend, and they care, but they consciously refuse to carry the other person's cross. They can recognize and acknowledge your pain without feeling compelled to make it their own personal mission or problem. This detached stance should not be mistaken for coldness. It is, in fact, the foundation of true emotional stability. Their compassion is delivered with clear boundaries and unwavering clarity. They do not need to fix you to demonstrate that they care. They do not need to absorb your suffering to validate that your pain is real. 12. The emotional chameleon, infiltrating and decoding any social climate. A Sigma empath possesses a chameleon-like ability to blend into any social or emotional environment, no matter how tense, artificial, or overtly toxic it may be. This adaptability, however, is not achieved through inauthenticity or pretending to be something they are not. They do not adopt a false persona to fit in. Instead, they adapt through their superior capacity to read the hidden emotional landscape. While others are adjusting their behavior to match what people are overtly showing, the Sigma empath is calibrating their energy to align with what people are covertly feeling. They tune their internal receiver to the underlying emotional frequency of a room. The quiet insecurities, the hidden agendas, the subtle power plays, and the unspoken social rules. Once this frequency is identified, they adjust their own vibrational output to move through the environment smoothly and undetected. This is not an act of performance. It is a skill of precise emotional calibration. They can sit comfortably in a boardroom of cutthroat executives, a social gathering of narcissists, or a family dinner fraught with tension, and never experience a loss of self. This is because they do not absorb the ambient chaos. They observe it with the detached curiosity of a scientist studying a fascinating ecosystem. It is as if they are equipped with a form of emotional camouflage. While everyone else is engaged in the exhausting work of projecting a specific image, posturing for status, and competing for attention, the Sigma empath moves through the space like a ghost, quietly decoding the complex emotional ecosystem. They possess an innate sense of timing, knowing precisely when to speak to maximum effect, when to withdraw and become virtually invisible, and when to leverage silence as a tool for gathering intelligence. Conclusion: the sovereign self, the empath as an evolutionary vanguard. The Sigma empath stands as one of the rarest and most potent psychological archetypes in the human spectrum. They are a living paradox, a being who experiences the emotional world in high-definition color and depth, yet is never ruled or enslaved by its currents. They are the individuals who can walk through the emotional fires of human drama and emerge not merely unscathed, but refined, not because they lack feeling, but because they possess a masterful understanding of the flame's nature, composition, and purpose. They do not become lost in the cacophonous noise of human emotion. Instead, They act as master interpreters and translators, deciphering chaotic signals, and often exposing the truths that others are too fearful, too polite, or too unaware to acknowledge. This is a quality that renders them both an enigma and a mirror. They are calm, yet their stillness radiates intensity. They are detached, yet their awareness is profoundly deep and penetrating. Do these ideas resonate with you? If you found yourself nodding along or reflecting deeply on the traits and experiences we explored in this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Sigma male mindset isn't often talked about openly, and your perspective, whether you identify with it personally or have encountered in others, adds valuable depth to the conversation. Drop a comment below and let me know, which part hit home the most for you? Have you seen these traits in yourself or someone you know? Your insights help build a community where authenticity and growth are prioritized over popularity and performance. If you're drawn to this kind of introspective, no-nonsense content around Sigma males, psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and high-value living, there's more waiting for you. Explore the other videos on this channel for deeper dives, actionable insights, and raw truths that cut through the noise. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay unapologetically real. Until next time.